Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Podcast 25, the last of season 1. I'm actually quite surprised we got to season 1. End of. I thought you'd have murdered me by now. I'm deadly serious, ladies and gentlemen. I can get on his wit quite a bit, and we've known each other 10 years.
I found my ways to de-stress.
It's 11.
Yeah,
It's 11.
11
It's fucking scary now. Anyway, today with our special, which we intend to do specials either at the beginning of a podcast or the end of a podcast season. I try not to go into theology much with Chris. It tends to get on his nerves. He had evangelical problems only a few years ago, and the trauma is still affecting him.
No, I just cut the bullshit out. Let's get that right, shall we?
The trauma is still affecting him. He still has a twitch every time he goes past the church.
Twitch? Make me sound like the fucking devil.
You're not far from it.
Still, I have got today the effect of the latest wave of feminism within the dating society. I've got a little brief history so people obviously understand which waves are which and what they're each mainly focused on. I bullet pointed them, and if you want in detail, you have to look it up. I'm not gonna lie.
He's giving you snippets.
I literally giving you bullet points of the main areas for each wave, but the main focus today is how the latest wave of feminism has affected dating in general, and literally what addresses it and bullet points within each one, and whether you agree with it or not. There are some, I'm not gonna lie, there's some I understand and fully I have no issues with, and then some I'm like, you can.
Yeah, absolutely. To be fair, let's start with the feminist side, because I think we'll start with what we're doing with Chris, and then we'll move on to what I've got afterwards. So we've got a bit more of a mid.
All right, obviously just a little bit of brief thing, because obviously there's only 4 waves of feminism at the moment. Obviously the first wave everyone commonly knows of, and that's basically securing women's rights and votes and right to vote.
Yeah, suffragettes.
Yeah, suffragettes. Yeah, that was the first wave. That was late 19th century, early 20th century. Second wave was between the 1960s and 97. That was mainly focused on education, work, and equal pay.
Again, I don't see a particular problem with that either.
Yeah, I was going to say, literally,
second wave, did well for all of us really, because that was a more of an inclusive kind of point of view.
Third wave, which even I didn't really know about, and that was challenging the white middle class orientation. And I was like, that sounds like a bag of waffle, but
not entirely. There was in the Western society. Remember, Western society is.
I think it's one of those waves which was breezed over and not really.
No. Third wave feminism, from what I understand it from my mother's age, came into existence to make it more accessible for both women and ethnic minorities to enter the workplace and working environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the white middle class orientation.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, but that leads to the conversation of allowing more people and ethnic minorities to enter the working environment.
And then the fourth wave from 2010 to present, because obviously the third wave was from 1990 to present, so it's still ongoing. And then the fourth wave is 2010 to present, empowerment of women through internet and social media. That's literally the main point where people seem to be having issues with, and where it seems to be affecting the dating world. Man-hating is normal now in feminism. Yeah.
I mean, fourth wave, specifically, we are talking of the latest wave, fourth wave feminism. Man-hating and all men are to blame and all men are responsible, and blame all men until no men. That ideology is mentally fucking retarded, in my opinion. We live in a society where individualism is praised. That's Western society, where individualism is praised, but yet we are collectively punished. You see, now, if we would flip that on its side, all women are flirts, all women are sexually promiscuous, all women are whores because they want to have stop-out goes. Those are disgusting ideological positions. I don't support that. I'm just trying to give you an example of flipping the narrative on the other side. What you've got is, we live in an individualistical society, so we're claimed, whilst at the same time collectively blaming men for everything that goes fucking wrong.
Double standard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yet you can't collectively blame anybody else. You can't collectively, let's take another stupid example. I don't believe this. Let's collectively blame all the gays for MAPS. Let's let MAPS, minor attracted persons.
That's just stupid.
No, of course.
But they didn't even saying that. It's
Almost
stupid.
Yeah, no, of course. Because I know so many gay people, I know a lot of gay people who would say they'd take a shovel to a map, who came near them, literally bury them. I've had gay people say that to me. So the idea that everyone should be labelled or lumped to these groups is absurd, to be fair. You can't say all men until no men. It's a buzzword. The majority of men are not rapists. The majority of men are not molesters, abusers, wife beaters. The majority of men are not. And yet to label the majority of men because of a tiny minority, people don't even talk about this. You just think, this isn't a conversation you had. Could you imagine one of our work follies saying, "Oh yeah, I slapped my wife"?
I'd slap him.
I just could you imagine the fucker saying that amongst us? I think you and our boss would have had to fire him on the fucking spot if he'd openly admitted that in the fucking restaurant. You'd have had to put your hands on me so I don't beat the cunt to death with the fry pans.
No, you'd be trying to beat me to the point where I see you hit him first.
It's just the idea that these things become conversation. Yeah, in the 1950s, a man might have said amongst a close group of his friends, "Oh, my wife was playing up and I had to give her a strong one." You know, that's possibly a conversation before any of us were born. But how in the fuck's sake does the fourth wave feminism in the 2000s, 2010s, relatably argue that all men are responsible for this? I mean, you've got some points. Carry on, Chris.
Yeah, obviously getting into the point of obviously how it's affecting obviously the dating society now. Obviously, it's challenging the traditional gender roles, which is the main point. So it's basically based upon equal contributions, mutual respect, and authenticity. All right, each contributions for these days with the economical climate, you do need a two-income household unless you've managed to secure yourself some hefty funds.
I fundamentally believe that men should do what me and you do and try to reach to be more. Don't start a family. I fundamentally do, and I know in Western society this is hard to swallow. Western living people should not be starting families until you are financially fucking stable. I think that's absurd.
No, it's a very good point, and it should be done. Each contribution, I can understand, obviously, there's several factors, not just financial, but starting off with financial, must be financially sensible with your money. Stable, yeah. Obviously, I know everyone goes through a period of questionable choices, should I say.
Boy racer. Yeah. No middle finger, Chris.
That was only one area of questionable choices.
True. If you didn't know, Chris has a very shiny car, and it's one of those middle-aged questionable items he purchased.
Hey, my car, even though I may like it on the sporty side, it's perfectly fair, family orientated. It's got room for kids, room for luggage, and everything else.
But it doesn't look like it should be a kids' or women car. Let's be honest about this. Yeah, but it rolls up. It looks like a pimp mobile.
That was my choice of how I decided to make it look.
Yes, it'll carry the family. Yes, it'll do the A to Z. That's not the question. It's functional in that regard. But it is a pimp mobile.
Function, it carries everything I need, and it does look like I'm about to charge down the street like a lunatic.
It does. But to be fair, you know, we're both single. We're white, adult, middle-aged men. We're allowed to buy expensive toys. Yeah. We don't grow up. We buy bigger toys.
Definitely, yeah.
My motorbike's no different from that. You know that. I'm not sitting here passing shades at Chris unnecessarily. I have a sporty fucking motorcycle. I am completely guilty of this thing. I'm just saying, don't act like you're some pious person.
I do it in the car aspect. He does it in the motorbike
Absolutely.
aspect. And I ain't going to change.
No.
Obviously, other contributions, I believe emotional contributions come into this as well. Making sure that you're emotionally of sound body and mind, whether you can actually take on the fact of family, and even in the relationship standard, because obviously you don't want to be dumping your past traumas and everything else upon the other person.
There are so many ways I can have this conversation go sideways for you.
Oh, I'll slap you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you do not know how many times this full-grown man has been like, "She's done this, she's done that," to me. I'm like, fuck? I told you not to date her.
Everyone learns from the past mistakes. Yeah.
Except, Chris keeps doing them.
Actually, no, mine's on different levels.
Oh no, my apologies. They're getting progressively worse.
No, I was
caveat. Chris has come into what I call the John affection. The better looking they are, the more fucking crazy they are.
No, that's not the John affection. That's just man knowledge in total.
Do you know what I'm saying? He keeps reaching for the good looking ones and wonders why they're all fucking crazy.
Hence the reason why now the next one's
trying to pick someone normal.
Right, you're good looking. Right, hang on, let's get to know them a bit. First for a fact. No, bye.
yeah, pretty much.
Obviously, emotional contributions, obviously, on both sides of the fence, not just obviously male but female as well, because of the fact it can affect both partners. What other contributions are there? Financial, emotional. You got any?
I think one of the concepts that is probably not feministic, has a leaning towards feminism. It's an upbringing coming from Islam, and I know one of the mentions. The Prophet, peace and blessings upon him, Muhammad, helped with the household. Men, you see, I know Chris is not going to have any problems with this because Chris is very much a cleaning freak. His place is immaculately spotless. Every time
I have my own place.
Yeah, when Chris has his own flat, that lot, you'd think he's already got a wife. He's that kind of reactionary towards it, but that's further than me. I'm an ex-chef, so my kitchen's generally my place is genuinely clean to the chefing standards. That's not far enough for Chris. If it isn't scrubbed within an inch of its life, he doesn't want it.
But does it meet food safety regulation restaurant standards?
Of course. That's in the kitchen. That doesn't need to be in the fucking living room.
The entire freaking house.
Yeah, that's the point. It doesn't need to be like that.
Yes, it does. Especially main things is kitchen and bathroom. Must be impeccable.
Absolutely. So let's. I think men need to accept the fact you must help around the household.
That's without a doubt.
Yeah, and cooking as well, because we both literally cook our own foods. Like we've never.
In every relationship I've been in, I've been the chef.
Yeah, it's mad. I find it absurd that some young men who have objections towards some parts of feminism, and we have those objections as well, need to understand you also need to cook and clean and wash and iron and do a lot of these jobs yourself.
Especially if you're expecting the other half to go out and earn money as well.
Exactly.
You're going to have to share that household load.
The household load. If you are the breadwinner and you want your woman to put her feet up, she's done the housework by 10 o'clock, she's watching movies, the dinner's on by 2 o'clock before you've got home.
That's what we call the traditional
thing.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine if you've got the money to do that. And if your partner's happy to do that. This is what we call a mutual kind of agreement here. But if you and your partner are earning, I'm telling you, you will be doing some of that fucking housework. Because there's no way, I mean, he would probably get his wife to do the washing. He wouldn't let her clean the house or cook. He's like, no, it's not to my standards.
No, I'd probably get her to do the bedrooms and living room and whatnot, and I'll keep on top of the bathroom
and the kitchen. Yeah, because I mean that comes from our chefing backgrounds.
Yeah.
But sharing workload, sharing childcare problems as well, I think that's necessary. Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, helped in his own household, and I think Muslims are far more interconnected in that regard. Those who follow the deen of Allah subhanahu or the deen of our Prophet tend to do more around, because we don't have these hang-ups that a man doesn't help around the house. That's garbage. Our Prophet did it, we do it, and that is an acceptable thing. If our wives or partners are having difficulty, you help, and that's what you should do.
That follows nicely into the second point, is obviously mutual respect.
Yeah.
Because obviously, in order to obtain, as I call, equal contributions within the household, financial, emotional, obviously taking care of kids and everything else that falls under that branch, you must have mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
Because if the mutual respect isn't there, it's going to cause issues, and it's going.
But fourth wave feminism doesn't want mutual respect. Fourth wave feminism wants male surrender, and that's a fundamental problem. Fourth wave feminism wants men under the foot, the way that women may have theoretically been in the 1940s and 50s.
Do you know, this is completely just. Some people agree with it, some people won't. If you want that, you be the breadwinner. I'll stay at home.
I don't think you could do that. I don't think you could stay at home. No. I know you well enough. I don't think you would go mad. You would have to have a hobby, even if you were raising. If it is hypothetically saying your partner is a businesswoman and making 120 grand, you would have to have some kind of side hustle to keep you sane. I know you. You're a fucking workaholic. Even because the kids and the household wouldn't take you that long. We're logical, methodical people. I know you. You'd have to have something on a side hustle. You'd have to be eBay selling or something you could do from home.
You tell me what? No, I'd go onto the online gaming system.
You'd have to do something because you'd go fucking mental.
I would say I'd have the housework done by midday and everything.
Exactly.
Else.
And then
even tea prepped and ready.
You know what I'm saying? Even if his wife was the breadwinner, and that is an acceptable position as long as both parties agree and have defined roles in their family unit. And I think that's an important factor. So it doesn't make us look like we're some kind of alpha male dog bullshit. Andrew fucking Tate and the rest of his garbage, because we don't believe in that respect. We believe in an equalitable household. The problem being is fourth wave online feminism does not want equalitable households. They want male surrender. They want male, I don't even know the right word for it.
Subjugation.
Subjugation, yeah, that's the one. Thank you, Chris. It's like man-hating has been turned into a fucking sport these days.
Yeah. And then obviously, last sub-point to obviously challenging traditional roles, authenticity. When people say authenticity, that says to me, obviously, make sure you're yourself, because of the fact you ain't going to progress anywhere in a relationship if you put up a mask.
Yeah, no, completely. Or
a persona or something along those lines, or even a downright out sociopathic liar.
We've had a few of those, haven't we? That's not just you, there's me as well. Fucking just yeah.
When authenticity for me basically means you're not going to say one thing and do another.
I take an example with that with Pudding. Didn't want kids, had kids.
You're on about your one, yeah. Just
completely out of the fucking blue. Made every clear point.
Every encounter, every conversation, every social interaction I've had with a female, which have turned around and says, "I do not want kids." I do not believe.
No.
This is just based on my own.
What they're saying
experience.
is they don't want kids with us,
yeah.
which is fine, but they should say that.
Yeah. If they say they don't want kids, ladies, be more specific. Just turn around and say, at this precise moment in time, I'm not looking to have children. Yeah.
Or I don't feel comfortable having that conversation, or the prospects of having kids with you.
Yeah.
And I can respect women.
99.9% of the men will go, okay, that's no problem. Expecting that relationship to last, well, that's another thing entirely.
You see, this is one of those adult conversational points. Women want to keep their hand on a relationship whilst stringing men along, and I'm sorry that it's morally bankrupt. Men are out looking for partners who are compatible with them to have children. You women should get it under clear understanding that we don't want to waste our time. If you're in a relationship with us and you don't want kids with me, please tell me. Yes, our relationship will become closing very quickly, and it will be an amicable point of view, and I will be civic about it. But I'm not out here to date. I'm looking for a future wife at some point.
I was going to say that, as I call that sort of mindset, where obviously they're not looking to have kids at the moment, I tend to find to be more towards, as I call it, just approaching into adulthood. So the late teens, as I call it, 18, 19, 20. Yeah.
Some of them in the mid-20s have that view as well.
Yeah, obviously some do progress into their later 20s with that same mindset. But unfortunately, biology has a different
I mean, we can't ignore the fact that the biological clock starts massively ticking at 30.
That's just something for you ladies to take into account. If you don't want kids entirely whatsoever, fine, no issue, as long as you're with a partner which understands that and doesn't mind that. All thumbs up.
With the current, I mean, this is important. I know this is a bit of a slight tangent. You know, the entire world, not just Britain, the entire world is having a birth deficit right now. There is a worldwide birth deficit.
Well, that's just troubling. That just means that at one point our population is going to take a massive nosedive and we're going to shit ourselves.
Absolutely, we're not going to reach 9 billion. It's unpractical that we will reach 9 billion,
right,
in any real sense. Anyway, carry on.
And then the second main point is equality. This may this is an area which will cause some sort of debate / argument. Communication. This is one thing which I pride myself on within a relationship, but unfortunately, I'm sorry, ladies, it's something you need to learn, and we need to learn as well in a respect. Obviously, understanding how you communicate, but you also need to understand that us blokes are very simple and direct. So the ones that like to hint at stuff, it don't work. I'm sorry. And if it does work on a dude that understands that feministic side, I would start questioning his sexuality. But yeah.
Just as a reference, the original date of 2035 was when we were supposed to hit 9 billion. It has now been pushed back to the 2040s. It's been like the never-ending conveyor belt of baby making machines around the world is slowing to the point where our 9 billion marker. Remember, the world can have between 10 to 12 billion. It believes at max population, but we are already on a slow decline as a species as it is. We've pushed back our 9 billion marker by a decade, and that should scare anybody, because if the human race slows down, what happens is industrialism slows down with it. We don't have the replacement levels to replace people to fit into our machinery that works. AI and robotics will not replace the working class until the 2080s.
That's got a long way off before replacing anything. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's if we get there. Another scientific point of view, that's not a guaranteed point. That's if we get there.
If we get there, yeah.
So yeah, relationships, we need to start working on these interfamily, interpersonal skills. And women, you can't keep blaming men for everything that fucking goes wrong. You're half our species.
Yeah, that'll come into accountability later. Oh, actually, no, it's the next point I was saying. The next thing on there, decision making, which means involves accountability. Because obviously, equality involves communication, decision making, and obviously resources. These are, as I call, just those three, in my opinion, are stone pillars within a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you've got to have effective communication with yourself. So that's no waffle, faff, hinting, straight, precise, lovely communication.
Speak on what you want, women.
Speak. If you want something, tell us directly. It's been mentioned countless times
throughout mankind,
through mankind, especially on the internet and social media sources now. Not just by men, but by women as well. If you want something precisely done or done a certain way, you must communicate it effectively, not by dropping hints. Yeah. So the fact, obviously, hints. Maybe hinting at a possible birthday present may work in some relationships. I can tell you now, if you get in a relationship with me, no, it won't. Tell me, or I will come up with my own thing. You don't like it, then you should have communicated better. Obviously, decision making. That's I would say that is the strongest out of those three for the pillars, because you need to be able to make sure you know who's making the final say within the relationship of certain aspects, whether that's financial, emotional, within the household. For example, if something within the house needs fixing, like a boiler or whatnot, whoever the breadwinner is, it should have the financial say on that. Within the household, if something needs doing, straight off the bat, that would be the one that's mainly looking after the household. Now, to most people, that they automatically think financial will be the man, within the household, that would be the female. But obviously, with these days, you have to be flexible. It could be the other way around.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I find that everyone should be capable of doing this. Yeah. And this is another pushback involving traditional roles involving relationships. Men should learn to cook. End of conversation. This is one of the things that me and Chris absolutely support. You're not going. There are going to be times when you're not in a relationship. Most Western young men will not be in a relationship until they're probably in their mid-20s.
I would say cooking is a skill that doesn't rely on relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a basic fucking skill.
Basic skill.
A basic skill, but it's not. It
doesn't mean you have to go out and be a 5-star Michelin restaurant. As long as you know how to cook the basics, that's all that counts.
Yeah. And your cooking is far away from that. Half a Michelin, maybe.
Oh, nowhere close to Michelin star, but I'm decent.
No. I've seen some of your steaks are pretty fucking good. Don't knock them. Specifically, I rate your steaks. I'd definitely say it's half a Michelin.
That's because I've been watching people cook it online and taking notes.
Like I said, you can make a mean steak.
But yeah, obviously decision making is a good one. Resources, obviously, everybody has their own resources that they bring to a relationship of all types. Because when most people think resources, they think financial. And it does tie into what you can bring into a relationship. It does.
And this concept that women are the table and women are the prize is an oxymoron. I think the prize is the raising of a family unit. The prize is the combination of two people in a loving relationship, whoever they are.
I don't like what you could bring to the table. I like what you could bring to the relationship. Because that means it's coming into the whole factor.
You're joining an actual unit. You're not attacking another human being by saying, I am the table, I am the prize. That comes off as aggressive, and people don't like that.
Narcissistic.
Really fucking narcissistic. Kind of nasty kind of
immediate frigging red flag. But yeah, resources, obviously each have their own. You bring it to the relationship. Yeah, that means obviously each resource will be used in order to make the relationship better, stronger, better than if you was on your own. Yeah, not saying that being on your own is bad. Obviously you need to survive on your own in order to actually get into a relationship.
I genuinely think people should spend more time alone than they should be in relationships, just to work on personal self,
especially in the beginning.
I genuinely think that young 20-year-olds should not be jumping into bed with each other or into houses with each other so early. No, that's not entirely true. You do see them really madly in love and stay together for like 50 years. That can happen, but that's not the norm. I just think that
that's on the rare these days.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. But they do exist. I would advise young women, young men to kind of drift to each other to make sure you're compatible, especially for the first year in Western society.
Honestly, when you're starting off as an adult, I reckon at least 2-3 years of independence
is absolutely necessary.
It is absolutely necessary, because then you get a grasp of what you need in order to go out into the world. Because obviously you still got, as I call, like the backing of mummy and daddy. Yeah. I say mummy and daddy. Obviously, with this day and age, it could be mummy, daddy, or in some cases just mum or just dad, unfortunately. But you have the backing of family that can help you negotiate certain challenges that you're not used to. But then after that, you should have a real grasp that you should be able to tackle it all on your own.
Or at least, I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking family for help. I think that's a misconception of point of view, and the idea, especially from the older millennials, your generation millennials who have kids, who think it's acceptable that kids should be out by 18, and that was a boomer idea that was passed on to them. I think that's insane.
I didn't move out my ass until over 20.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is the older millennials have the follow-on ideology of their parents that you should leave the house at 18.
No, I'd want my kids to
just absolutely not. You need to be stable. You need to be mentally, physical stable. You need to be there to help both your children, but to leave the nest safely when you have your kids. The idea that children should leave the nest immediately at an arbitrary fucking age, that is something old that does need to die. In today's climate and resources, it's fully acceptable, in my opinion, for if your teenagers are earning, they should still live under their family house.
I'd have no issues with my kids staying at home to a certain point. I'd say after 25, I will be kicking you out the door. Yeah.
You want your piece of quiet then?
Yeah. But I will accept that as soon as you start earning money in a job, you will be paying towards the household bills.
Oh, Daddy's being strict. I wouldn't.
He wouldn't. I would. I'm sorry. I will teach you financial responsibility.
No, absolutely. My kids will be listening to Uncle Bailey about financial responsibility. Absolutely. But Muslims tend to have a far more higher threshold, if you know what I mean, when it comes towards children given more room to grow, to make mistakes, and to be able to come back. If my kids fell on their asses and had to come home, I wouldn't have no problem with it. That even after 25, to be fair, if I have a 25-year-old, I'll still be in my fucking 60s, 70s. So I hope I've made it by then. I'm already bloody old. I'm on the senior side of middle-aged. I've not reached old yet, but we're fucking getting there.
Obviously, when it comes to supporting your kids and whatnot regarding it still falls within resources, because obviously you've got to be able to, I say you've got to at least be able to support your child until they're at least 18/20. Obviously, depends on how far their educational goes, because I say you must support them entirely throughout their educational
university included.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, because that, obviously some will only end at 16 at secondary school. Some will go further than that, obviously A-levels, college, university.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to university, I would highly encourage them to do through, what is it called? I forgot what it's called now. The grants through the university and everything else.
Oh, now you're making my head hurt.
Yeah. Scholarships and everything else, yeah. I
knew what I was thinking of, I just couldn't fucking put my hand on the word.
Ideally, if you could get a scholarship, that's fantastic. Obviously, it depends on what field you're trying to go into, because obviously some do it, some don't. But that's my point. That's literally that on resources, and that's the last part of equality. All right. Third point, moving beyond romantic stereotypes.
Ooh.
Yeah. 3 sub-points, obviously we'll cover them each separately. Rejection of the traditional courtship, emphasis on connection, and love language. Have you noticed a key theme here, which seems to be intertwining with everything in some level or anything else? And that's communication.
The modern, because we live in a digital age that does a huge amount of texting and communications involving mobile devices, people are losing the ability to interconnect with each other and communicate very well with each other. Yeah,
communication, I'm not going to lie, even throughout this entire law, communication is massively prominent.
I think communication is a massive problem with young millennials and Gen Zers. Because there's such a digital age, they tend to communicate a lot more online and digitally. Like, it's not even absurd. I've got family who tell me that siblings are texting each other rather than talk to each other.
That doesn't surprise me.
You know, that's quite frightening. Where a generation would rather plug a phone question to their sibling than ask them. I can't even.
It's leaning towards that. The newer generations, unfortunately, a percentage of them will think that communication links into social media.
That's absurd.
Which I think is that's entering into communication into the public domain, where certain things that should never be spoken about in the public domain. Yeah. That should be behind closed doors between you and the person involved.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, when it comes to certain very private matters, absolutely. But no, social media is both a beautiful thing and an incredibly destructive force when wrongly wielded.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a double-edged sword. If used correctly, it could be exceptionally effective. Used in the wrong purpose, it will destroy. Obviously, going to the first secondary bullet point, rejection of the traditional courtship. Now, this, I have a feeling, will be a lengthy one, because this ties into the fact of expectations of what you want from each other when you first start dating. Because of the fact, obviously, when it comes to rejection of traditional courtship, obviously, most people are like, the men should pay.
You see, now
men should make the first move, and
unfortunately that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
because when men make the first move, we get accused of being predatorial.
I would say this is where the first of very many double standards start to fall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we should be traditional. We should approach. We should do everything else. That's what women expect. That's what women have been grown up to expect. That men should make the first move. But then on the same other side, you're being a predator, you're being a stalker, you're
absolutely.
being
creepy, and even
you're being ick.
And this is because women aren't willing to communicate well. This is a fundamental problem with the lack of communication. Whereas when a man makes the move after the wrong given signals or some kind of mild flirtation and gets the wrong idea, young and inexperienced men tend to do this, it leads towards disasters. It really does. I think fundamentally the one of the core factors of wanting men to pay for the first date, men to pay for everything, men to be make the first move, do everything towards the relationship. I think that's right. From a Muslim point of view, I absolutely agree with that. The problem, we don't date, but in terms of men should be the leading factor as women suggested, involving paying and everything else that goes on with that. What they don't want to say is that they don't bring the other side. They don't bring feminine energy. They don't bring the dainty lady waiting for you to pull the chair out, because they think that's being chauvinistic. The problem being is you want the other half of that without the bits that you have to do.
Yeah, the double standard. You want all the expectation, but without
reciprocation of the same environment. Because women talk about equality until the bill gets turned up, or a fight breaks out.
Yeah, this is.
And these are very real realities.
So you expect us to pay for the bill. We'll turn around, and most men will be like, okay, I'm covering the bill regardless, until you turn around and go, oh, we're splitting the bill then. That's when you open the window going, oh, you want to split it? Yeah, okay, no problem, I'm fine with that, equality and everything else. We are dealing the card that you have dealt to yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I mean...
and that's where most women be like, men pay for the first date. Then why did you offer to pay half the bill?
It's just... When you have a conversation about fourth wave feminism, it always gets incredibly sticky, and people don't like the conversation, because when you mention double standards, it tends to deeply irritate them, because it is the fourth wave feminism specifically, and an online fourth wave feminism, leads towards destructive man hating.
As it's called, they want to have their cake and eat it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just doesn't work, and this is why we're seeing a disconnection in Western courtship and Western relationships.
It's why men are going, well, hang on, it's better off me being single than it is to deal with that minefield.
Yeah, absolutely.
So even if you go on the online apps for dating and everything else to try and do that, I've popped at that every now and again, and I'm not gonna lie, the amount of times I've gone, oh, looks nice, I'd be lucky if I get 1 in 50 reply.
And this is why I don't like online dating apps. I think they're an absolute waste of money, resources.
I believe going to social events is a far better way.
Oh, absolutely. Because it trains your interpersonal skills. It allows you to start learning how to read body language.
Yeah.
It allows you to gauge what you do and do not want in a partner, and it also allows women to see whether you're confident or not. And I mean that's important. Men need to be more confident in how they approach women. Confidence can carry you quite far in complete honesty. Anyway, carry on, boy.
Obviously, and then emphasis on connection. Obviously.
That's more than sex, girls.
Connection doesn't, obviously, each side has, the main form of connection is different compared on each sex. Obviously.
And love language, which you've got.
Yeah, and love language, both intertwined with each other. Because obviously females are more, mostly about the romanticising and everything else. The build up towards what most men build the connection from, which is the physical intimacy. Yeah. I'm specifically saying physical intimacy because that involves several forms of physical intimacy, not just wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Well, that's the problem. The hookup culture is exactly everything feminists want, and it's a disaster. It's hollowed out society. I do think hookup culture is poisonous, incredibly poisonous, destructive towards social society as a large. And for some reason, feminists think that's cheerable, that the destruction of society is cheerable. It isn't, because it doesn't provide human society to move on. You're not advancing society, ladies. You're pulling back and destroying it.
You're creating a roadblock.
No, not even a roadblock, Chris. Most feminists who approach that hookup culture is a good thing and should be promoted.
You're creating a roadblock and then moving it backwards.
Yeah. You're not progressing society. This isn't a progression into a better society. This is a destruction of society. And people need to start talking about it like that.
Obviously, when I was in school and everything else, going into college and everything else, you still had the hookup culture, but it wasn't as prominent as it is today.
Or promiscuous.
Because the fact it was more considered the fact that it'd be a little side thing that happened every now and again, but you was mainly out to learn and have just general entertainment and experiencing youth within that sector, not going out and see how many people I can jump into bed with. I'm sorry, but that you cannot deny the fact that there is that side of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Especially now. I was read the other day one person slept with 580 odd plus men in one day or something.
She's a disgusting human being, and she does a lot of it for it's clickbait. I know who you're talking about, Josie something or other. I can't remember.
I literally, the only thing I'm thinking of is, oh my god, what the hell? First of all, men, what the fuck? I know there's a thing for an easy lay, but that is ridiculous. Yeah. And to rack up such numbers, I'm sorry, that can't be good on any level.
No, it doesn't. It's disgusting. It's the nature of just Anna Knight. That's the one. That's the young lady. She went to hospital after sleeping with 583 men. She was hospitalised after it.
The human body can only take so much. And to be quite honest, trying to push it on that such level is ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Obviously, I can understand people have their own goals and everything else, but I would always say weigh up the positives to the negatives. And I'm sorry, but the negatives outweigh anything positive within that sort of scenario. On any side of the fence.
The idea that someone can realistically think that that's an acceptable way of behaving, and I mean, she regrets it. That's the problem. She deeply regretted what she did. It destroys you as a human being.
But the sad thing is that
men and women, like, this isn't just a woman thing. Yeah. Like you hear all these red pill nutcases talking about, oh, a man can do this, but a woman. No. It disconnects you as a human being. If you have hundreds and hundreds of partners, you start to lose a piece of yourself and your soul, because you start treating human beings like meat, and that's disgusting.
So even within us blokes, if we know someone's turned around and racked up a ridiculous amount of sleeping partners, even we look at that dude and go, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I know. Yeah.
We literally just think, why? What was the point in that when you could have turned around and had a healthy relationship with surely at least one of them and actually had something meaningful? I'm sorry, I am leaning towards the traditional way there.
No. I genuinely don't think that, like, obviously, I'm not objecting towards people having partners. We're in a Western society. But 500, you will lose a piece of who you are. Common wisdom tells you that. I mean, I can't rationalise behind it. I really can't. The idea of wanting to do that.
Hence the reason why,
in either way, male or female.
They seem to emphasis on connection. Connection can be obtained through communication and understanding each other on more than just a social level, more of an getting to know each other level and everything else going from there. Obviously, from all the interactions that I had on a personal level, when trying to get to know someone, you can tell whether it's going to go somewhere or not. Obviously, sometimes you are unfortunately wrong and it does not go quite the way you want, or there's been some underlying bit of information that has not been made aware to the other side that causes it to collapse.
I can't rationalise in my mind how man 100 would want to sleep with someone after 100 other dudes have been there, let alone man 200, man 300, man 400. What in the fucking days are just... it's boggling.
Yeah. But
that's
the extreme side of that. But obviously, all I can say from that is obviously trying to move beyond romantic stereotypes. Unfortunately, the stereotypes are there for a reason, because of the fact
they help build families, they help build society.
They are built upon experience of previous generations and what will work in order to sustain
human civilization.
But not only just that, also human connection with yourself and your partner. Obviously, I know how you romance slightly changes obviously throughout the years. There's obviously progression, technology, and everything else, but the cause is still there. But that leads on nicely to consequences and challenges. Yeah.
I think we're probably going to end up this entire podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say that's on 44 minutes already. I'm going to say conflict, fear of rejection and need for continued education. Some of the consequences and challenges that face.
The problem being is we've got an education system that's very flawed. We need a balanced and neutral education system. We don't have that at the moment.
I've noticed the education system seems to be
very squiff,
very, very much wafting over to a direction which doesn't benefit anybody
or society.
Yeah.
I fundamentally find that the further you drift from the centre of society, the more difficult it is to balance society as a whole. Whether you're going left, right, whatever your ideology is, the further you move from the base column of humanity, the more difficult society is to maintain.
And then, obviously, that education, fair enough. To be quite honest, need for education, I can understand that, because obviously, does your education really ever end? I don't think it does.
No. Everyone should be learning. Everyone should be reading. The human race should, as a general, always try to progress itself forward in both skills and intellect.
I say education never really stops. Obviously, there's a traditional form of education, which is obviously school, going through
I don't
to
think works
university,
anymore.
which I think will only work if you're looking for a specific path to go on. Otherwise, you'll be better off making sure you've got good, stable basics, and then entering into the world, going after. Because most people will be like, I want money, so it'll be businesses and everything else. So, see, you'll learn even after school. I'm sorry, the younger generation, your education does not stop; it just changes.
No, it changes. There is one thing to learn how to repair computers. There's another thing to sit in a workshop for 8 hours and fix computers.
Yeah,
they're like one of my close friends. He's into computer engineering, and he didn't come through for higher education, but a lot of the kids did.
Yeah,
and it's a shock to the system when you have to sit there for 8 hours dismantling and repairing equipment, compared to where they're interested in the software's fixed. That's it. They concentrate on one laptop or one computer. When you're actually in the environment to use computer point of view, you do hundreds of damn things a week.
You got to do multiple things at once, and it's not always the same issue.
No.
Sometimes it could just be hardware, simple replacement of a certain piece of hardware.
Software.
Sometimes it could just be a simple bit of coding that needs changing. Other times it's removing a certain program entirely and just moving to a more compatible program for your system. And I only know this because of the fact I studied computer engineering. So,
but this is the thing. And as I said, the friend I have, he didn't study it from that point. He came into the industry as a tech savant to start with, and then built himself up into a computer engineer.
And I say you get that's called the textbook version of education, and then you get the physical learning as you go part of the education, which is what you get after you leave school. So the fact there's several parts which I learned outside of school, which is a different type of learning experience. And to be quite honest, I prefer.
I think on-site and on-job education is more valuable than anything you can get from a textbook in a school, university, or college.
You learn so much more, but then I'm more of a hands-on learner. So obviously you get some people which could turn around, read a book and then pick it up and not have an issue, and then you get the people which actually need to get in and get your hands dirty.
Yeah.
I'm one that will get in and get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
Make the mistakes to do it as necessary. Repetitive learning, I think they call that.
And then the other thing is fear of rejection. I think that has become more prominent over the years, and it's spiked.
More male or female, do you think?
I reckon both sides, because of the fact, obviously, now with social media and the fact that the options that are available, obviously, to try and court people on both sides of the fence have become so much more prominent and more at your fingertips is ridiculous. I think wise is probably more on the male side of fear of rejection than the female side, because of the fact.
Talking about social media, what did you think of the social media ban for under 16s?
Needed.
No.
I'm sorry. But I come from an era where social media didn't even pop up until I was in college.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I ask you because you're the younger one. My opinion is I think it can do both harm and a great good, because social media can be used as an engine of progress and support and mobilising people.
If the social media companies can make sure that
could be policed properly, that's absolutely.
If they can make sure that they set up a certain age restriction on it, so that nothing over that age restriction even touches those accounts. Yeah. And it's completely, I'm sorry, parent controlled on any fact that even if you use an AI system to make sure that works. I think that's where AI can actually be exceptionally helpful to make sure that the underage do not experience anything they shouldn't. Then it will become a good tool. But unfortunately, at the moment, with us learning more and how to get more tech savvy, the underage will learn very quickly how to bypass those security measures.
This is very, very true. But in terms of feminism and dating, let's get back to the main topic, because we've been drifting for a bit here.
The fear of rejection, I reckon it leans more towards male, because of the fact all it would take is a male to do something wrong. That lady will drop him like a...
Not just drop him, but there is this...
And burn him at the same fucking time.
There is this policy now that you should... The fear of rejection leads because there are so many examples of young men being online bullied, misandrists being absolute fucking monsters.
False accusations
as well. Yeah. It's terrifying to be a young man in today's society online, in the online space, because if you're doing well and you've got one of those picturesque faces, you can get away with fucking anything. Beauty factor can have a huge definition.
That's nothing mean you have.
Yeah, well, like I said, my newest boss called me fugly at my fucking interview, which was funny as hell. Absolutely hilarious. Well, one of my bosses said, "You're fugly," and I started laughing. He says, "You've got a good sense of humour. You'll do well in this job." That's just absolutely a perfect example of the beauty factor makes many of these problems disappear. Blonde, blue-eyed, of either gender, that's it. It starts to lift up because the standards of beauty standards haven't changed radically. They're still blonde, blue-eyed is still the standard of beauty. Even in today's
brunette over a blonde, to be honest.
I'm for a redhead. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Oh, redhead's freaking dime in a dozen. What the fuck are you?
Yeah, but I just said I prefer a redhead. You know, the Irish in me.
Yeah, but the fear of rejection, I would say fear of rejection is definitely more male than actual female, because of the fact of the consequences that can happen after. Because I'm sorry, but you ladies get off light half the time.
Light, motherfucker! If they're held responsible.
Yeah.
That's if they're, like I said, the problem being is when we see online examples of this all the time. The reason I want to pick at this point is because when women see women being punished for disgusting behaviour, they go mad. They go mad. No, she was misinterpreted. No, she's having difficulty. Women will make 1,000 excuses for other women online for something they've done that's absolutely irresponsible. But if a man had done it, oh yeah, she's getting punished, rightly so.
It's immediate, done, dusted, go away. Yeah,
and that's another example of feministical double standards that we need to address.
Accountability. They refuse to take accountability.
Accountability is just a dirty word to feminists.
Yeah. Obviously, fear of rejection. That's obviously comes in nicely into conflict, because that could cause conflict massively. Fear of rejection, because that will breed toxicity into a relationship and everything else. Because this is one thing which absolutely boggles my mind.
Just one?
It's one of the very many factors, yeah. When it comes to conflict, if it's the male initiating the conflict, that city's immediately in the wrong. But if a female initiates it, the male's done something to cause it.
Yeah, it's another example of double standards.
And I'm just like, hang on, what the hell? Are you actually willing to hear the other side of the story? This is why
personal development is a very big thing that needs to go on in all families and relationships. People need to develop themselves before they start getting into another relationship.
It's absolutely disgusting.
And the scary thing is, much of these fear of rejections and much of these, and I know this is kind of coming off a slight tangent from your topic, but a lot of it has because of the lack of fatherhood, both in girls and boys.
That's a very good point. The lack
of male role model in children and teenagers is a key indicator of many of these micro-social flaws.
On the fact of father figure, obviously most people think father figure obviously needs to be the biological father.
No.
To me, that doesn't necessarily need to be, because obviously there's many different scenarios where the father figure
there
would
are
be there.
Excellent examples of stepdads.
Yeah, obviously that could be the case of obviously the father has been lost due to war or an accident or anything else. That's one thing. That's where I think personally, me, if that's the route of obviously death or accident or anything else that resulted in the man not being alive, the father of the child not being alive anymore, I think if he has a brother, the uncle should turn around and step in and be that male role model. I bear in mind, this is not me turning around and say go sleep with a woman. This is me saying being a father figure,
Chris, when we make it as
male role model for the child.
Chris, when we make it as podcasters, if you have a son and you have an accident, you know I'm sleeping with your wife.
I will fucking race from the dead and kill you myself.
Look at his reaction. Look at his. No, not my wife. I'm gonna crawl out the grave and kill him.
I will find a way back to this fucking goddamn mortal existence, and I will take you back with me. That's not what I meant. Dude.
I said role model, not sleep with my wife, you bastard. As he stands around one day, yeah. I told you I could get him back. I told you I could bring him back.
He would do that as well. Told you I could bring him back.
Fucking craziness. But no, it is many of the factual problems we have in today's society are built from the 1990s onwards of a lack of accountability for teenage fathers and 20-year-old fathers who were just, let's be honest, fuckboys. And these fuckboys were who the girls... See, the female population wants to date only about 5% of men and ignore the other 95%, or settle with the 95, one of the next 10 or 15% after they've had their first kid, because they know they can't, they're not as attractive to the fuckboys. The problem being is these fuckboys do not make adequate fathers. And that is our fundamental problem we have in today's dating, in generational dating society. We have moved away from my grandfather's period, where if you had a problem, you go to bed, you wake up and you fix it the next morning. Nowadays, because of online validation, online society, it's very, very easy for a woman to get another man like that, or a man to get another woman like that. And rather than fix their problems, the next younger generation just dumps each other and moves on. And that will cause unbelievable trauma for children.
Yeah. Yeah, that's obviously consequences in challenging relationship. And then the final point is examples of feminist dating in action. Financial responsibilities, dividing of domestic tasks, communicating about boundaries, supporting each other's goals. This is just a final point, summarising everything which we just discussed.
I wouldn't. You see, the problem is online feminists don't even talk about boundaries and responsibilities individually. The ones that do, I think, are actually genuinely more third-way feminists. They're the ones that are sensible. Please, everyone who gets to this point at the end of our podcast today, be under no illusion that this conversation is about the toxic feministical movements that are online man-haters. We are not horrifically attacking the movement of feminism by itself, because there are elements of it that have been very beneficial towards Western society, equal pay.
The elements we have no issues with.
Yeah, absolutely.
As obviously I said, I'll give a quick history at the beginning.
Absolutely, because I think
first, second and third, benefited society because of the fact that, and thus because it helped us come up to a standard where we could better ourselves. Unfortunately, the latest wave has brought toxicity with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because it's allowed some of the loudest and most aggressive women who would probably have been spinsters back in the day, have a platform and a voice that allows them to spew their hatred.
As I call it, it's brought forth the negative side.
And it's allowed women to do, because all women are supposed to support all women these days.
Yeah.
And that is where we have come towards some very, very disgusting misogynistical mindsets, which do incredible harm to society in general. And online suicide has gone up on male population just because of online misogyny, which refuses to be held accountable.
That's going to be a topic on our next.
I think so.
On our next podcast definitely. Is going to be.
We didn't get to my points. Yeah. We didn't. We will.
We can carry on. We could do an hour and a half.
No, bugger it. I'm hungry. I haven't even had breakfast. And by the time we've got to this recording, if anyone's wondering, we're doing a morning recording today. Yeah. So I haven't had anything to eat. So it's like or we can come back to my topics like we have done before. We've got engrossed
We
in
can
what
do it
we're
in the
doing.
first episode of season 2.
Yeah, first episode of season 2. I can still keep those materials because this is an engrossing topic, feminism and dating, and I have no problems sitting and having a conversation with Chris, and Chris leading this kind of a point, because this is where he has more experience than I do. Being a chef and genuinely speaking, being a religious man, and I have been. I was Catholic before I became Muslim. I don't have the dating experience Chris does. So in that regard, I have more of a kind of sheltered, kind of religious structural society to how my dating life led.
And so just a couple of examples of feminist dating in action, obviously, before we wrap it up. Obviously, functional responsibilities is obviously covered within the first point with regards to equal contributions. It's basically what they expect you to pay for, and without a question of doubt. And then obviously where you expect similar sort of contributions in return, they ain't willing.
Yeah, you see, and so relationships are should be a 50-50 society. We're not necessarily in finance, but in motion, in terms of
domestic tasks,
domestic tasks.
Yeah.
This should never be a 50. Even if a man pays for everything, his partner should then be willing to help around the household, help around the kids, should be more willing to do the feminine role if a man is doing the male role. And that doesn't matter if they're male or female on either side. The person who is doing one role, the other one should be supporting them from the other direction. It's like a yin-yang, you know?
Balance.
Balance in the household.
I always believed in balance within the household, because of the fact if one person does one thing, the other person counteracts by doing the other.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that then you then get harmony. I know some people go, oh, cuckoo, bullshit. No, because in fact you need harmony, you need balance within any sort of relationship in order for it to work and progress long term.
Completely.
So the fact if you don't have that one that counteracts the other, the only thing that's going to happen is everyone's over here, and it's going to collapse. And the same on the other side.
To be fair, I think this has been the first time we've sat down and actually spoken about just one extenuating topic, and I think it's brilliant because we've done it now for an hour, and I think that's a really good point. I mean, are you happy to wrap up from there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a really good point where we kind of pulled out what seems to be the intersection, and we're not enemies to feminism. Can people stop assuming that? I don't know how many people will get to the end of this, but we are not these kind of demonic anti-feminists. We do believe that feminism should have an intersectional point of view in society, as liberal men, but it absolutely does need to be dialed back with the online misandry, the harm that is done to young men, to society needing to take more of a stock of how we look at communications and connectivity with each other.
And unfortunately, you've got to take accountability for your
actions. And accountability is so fucking important in today's society.
It's the only way, not just yourself, but everyone as a whole within society can move forward.
That's a sound point. Accountability for the British government. I was about to say.
Accountability for everybody. Yeah.
Accountability. Yeah. One of those words the British political elite don't even pay attention to.
And the latest wave of feminism, don't you?
Yeah. Well, they're trying to be the next elite. That's the problem. Yeah. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed this. I'm sure it's going to cause some controversy when I put up the labels and everything. But this is feminism. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm John, Sean or Yahya. Thank you for staying here for the last episode of season 1. This is Your Voice, Your Nation. We are the Blue Collar Workers, and this is.
I am Chris. Have a smashing day.
And this has been pretty much Chris's entire episode. Yeah. I'm really quite happy about this because it allows us to emphasise on a problem. But as always, thank you very much. See you in a bit.